From Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page to B.B. King and Les Paul himself, guitars have captivated us for decades.
How's it going, guys? My name is Blake Hall. I'm a singer-songwriter, guitar player out of Nashville, Tennessee.
Through the years and the countless modifications, developments, and ways we hear them, you can bet there's someone somewhere recording a songwriter with a guitar. So dive in with me as we demystify the dynamic process of producing a guitar-driven song. Hey everybody, I'm Sean, and recently I had my friend Blake Hall over to the studio, and together we wanted to create a video that would speak to a handful of different people. So this video is for you if you're a guitar player, if you're a producer, if you're a session guitar player, or you want to get more work becoming a session guitar player where you play guitar and get hired to play guitar in the studio more. So this video kind of speaks to all of those different things in different ways. So let's dive into the track. I called Blake because he's a great friend, super talented player, and I know his tones are always spot on. So, like any session guitar player, he showed up with an array of different things, different choices and colors, from guitars to different pedals, and ultimately he was pretty much ready for anything.
When I show up to a session, I want to try to bring what I can, several different sounds to work with, but if you don't have a lot of different guitars, then maybe bring the one that you're most familiar with.
And when he showed up to the studio, I let him know, hey man, we've got a really groovy thing. There's a lot of room for you to be able to do something. I'm thinking kind of riffy, kind of chill, laid back, but just something that makes you want to bob your head and kind of rock with it a little bit. So that's ultimately what we produced here. And the first part was the riffy part. So that part really takes up the majority of space within the track. So if there were to be vocals cut on this, we would probably arrange that even a little bit differently, just so that it didn't step on those vocals. But for the sake of the purpose of this demonstration, we let him take up all the space he wanted to.
Once we figured out the riff, established what guitar we were going to start with, that helped us figure out where we were going to go from there. So we started with a Tele, no modulation or anything, just some delay, light overdrive, and some reverb.
So the second part is definitely a contrast to the first thing. So instead of it being riffy, it kind of lays down a little bit more and feels more padded out. The tones are going to be different. Even the guitar he used was different. And you know, it fills out the track.
I picked up the Strat because it was a different texture, so I don't want to take up the same sonic space. And if you're going to layer stuff, you don't want it to get muddy. So you try to keep the different parts, if they're even going to be in the same register, especially keeping the tonal qualities different. And then we ended up also adding a little harmonic tremolo from the Strymon Flint, and that gave it a little bit of texture.
So let's check out this second part. Almost feels like a totally different song when you just have that part soloed up versus the first part. So together, they make a really full sounding track. Now, I did capture on both takes a DI as well, a dry signal, in the event that we wanted to play with any additional tones or even replace tones, which If you hire the right guitar player, you don't have to do that. But in a situation where, you just never know. Something can go wrong in a session. There might be microphone bleed if you're doing it live, or there might be some kind of situation where you're like, man, this just isn't the right tone, and you throw on like a bias effects or something else. So that's why I always capture the DI as well. You can tell that in both tracks we did not use it in the least because his tone is great. It's Blake Hall. It's gonna be great. So some things to consider when it comes to recording guitars, whether you mic it or you use a DI, and if it's like a Kemper or something like that, it doesn't ultimately matter. The genre of music really is important to think about. And the spatial, kind of the context of what you want the song to feel like is really gonna matter when it comes to committing to guitar parts like this. In other instances, if this was not done the way that we chose to do it here, I might have doubled that riff. I might have literally double tracked it and had it panned out wide had we not, decided, let's lay it back on the other side and give it a really nice stereo spread. So there's that kind of a piece too. Do you double track the guitars in some genres and in some parts? You do. And sometimes, you're dealing with something that you want to feel a little bit more live and a little bit more like there's specific players playing specific parts, which is ultimately what we decided to go with here. Honestly, I didn't do a single thing other than some multi-band compression when it comes to these guitars. I rolled off some low end and tamed basically 150. I didn't even compress it, except for what's going on my master bus, which that right there, the bulk of the compression that you're hearing is that SSL comp. I could call Blake for pretty much anything, and I know that it's going to turn out really, really well. There's no shame in hiring specific people for specific songs. Some guys are really great at this. Some guys are really great at this. And so, Blake is, he's a friend and he's somebody that I know I can count on. So all of those factors kind of play into why I would choose to hire somebody versus just going with some random guy, that is super, super good at guitar. Again, when it comes to who am I going to hire and why as a producer, it's going to be the guy that's easy to work with, that's going to show up, that wants to work, that doesn't try to hurry up the session and get on to the next gig. I've worked with players that have literally started to unplug their amps without asking, are we all good here? And that's just not a super professional way to go about things when it comes to long-term, lasting relationships that are going to get you hired over and over and over again. So I want to give a big shout out and thanks to Blake Hall for coming in and doing this with me. You can find links to his social media accounts and follow him in the spaces below. I also want to give a big shout out to Rev Amplification for making killer amps that sound amazing when you plug your guitar in. I also want to just say that if you're trying to become a producer, or you're trying to become a session guitar player, or you're trying to record guitars as a recordist and audio engineer, I hope this was helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this, and we'll talk to you guys again real soon.